Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Anthony. This is Backchannel. Welcome to the show. What a pleasure to see you. And here we are, another morning spent in each other's company. What more could we possibly ask for? You've got me for a couple of hours now here on Backchannel. We're going to hang out, spend some time together, get to know each other. You can message me. You can take part in the show just by using your activation word, followed by say, followed by your message. That's how you do it. That's what we do. Yes, it's all good, Carla. Thank you. Yes. Tegan, good morning. Welcome. Carla's here, by the way. She's producing the show from London. I'm in Los Angeles. It's 9 o'clock here on the West Coast, Pacific. Stacey, straight in. Thank you for joining us this morning. Not going to miss a single second of this show. That's what I like. I've had my toast. The toast has been eaten, so everything's going to be fine. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. Let me just give you a little bit of a hint at what might be coming up. We've got Thanksgiving travel anxiety to talk about this morning, because of course it's Thanksgiving on Thursday. Today is Tuesday, which means it is just 3 days away. Can America continue without another lockdown? Because some countries are locking down. In Europe, Netherlands, Germany, various countries having to do new lockdowns because it's a bit crazy out there. This is to do with coronavirus, of course. They're not just locking down for totalitarian reasons. Hi, Jace. Thanks for joining the chat this morning. Thank you for joining me. I'm Anthony. This is the Anthony Davis Show. Says so right here. And if you would like to join in, you can use our chat facility. Just go to backchannel.tv. You can talk to your Echo Show device. You can also just type on the screen if you're streaming on YouTube. Loads of ways to chat to us here this morning. We're also going to talk about if a business can survive without social media. This is after the cosmetics company Lush has decided to kind of come off all social media. I'll tell you why a little bit later. And also ethical shopping ideas for the holiday season. Buying stuff that is, it's very easy to fall into the same trap as last year and just buy a load of Christmas presents that are just garbage, that are really not helping the climate and the planet. So maybe it's time to be a little bit more thoughtful about what we buy this holiday season. So we'll be looking at that as well. But first, let's go straight into the morning newspapers. We have a whole bunch of newspapers to get through. We review the papers every morning, take a look at the big stories making the headlines. If you have a local newspaper that is in your hometown or where you happen to be and you want to ask me to review it, then just send a message and I'll do exactly that. Stacey says, hello, Anthony, and I'm ready for your lunch hour. Are you ready for your lunch hour? Stacey and I get to hang out every day for her lunch hour. It's becoming a bit of a thing. Just saying. Okay, no evidence of terror attack in deadly Wisconsin parade crash is the headline. This is in Waukesha, of course, the SUV driver who plowed into a Christmas parade in suburban Milwaukee, killing at least 5 people and injuring 48, was actually leaving the scene of a domestic dispute that had taken place just minutes earlier. The police chief, Dan Thompson, said there was no evidence that the crash on Sunday was a terrorist attack or the subject, Darrell Brooks Jr., knew anyone in the parade. Brooks acted alone, the chief said. I mean, I don't know really what to say about this. He must have had to have been in a pretty unhealthy mental state to flee the scene of a domestic and then just not care who he plowed down as he got the hell out of there. In terms of your mental state, I'm just trying to have some empathy for what he might have been thinking. And have you ever been in a situation where you're just like, I just don't care. Like, I'm whatever. I don't care about the consequences. He must have been pushed to the limit. Anyway, they've now caught him because, of course, he'd vanished for a while. They've got him, and hopefully he will be taken off the street so he can't do any more harm. I was reading about him yesterday. He's actually had like 16 charges of previous things that he's, criminal acts that he's done before. He also knocked over a woman in a gas station with his car before as well, drove into her. So he has form, he has previously knocked people over. It's interesting, isn't it, and very tragic. So, and I'm sure the death toll will rise. There's a lot of people in critical condition in hospital. Also on the front of the LA Times, smash and grab and raise the alarms. Organized retail theft isn't new, but robbers hitting high-end stores are especially brazen. I love the word brazen. It kind of reminds me of how we might describe a fox. An urban fox. You ever heard that word to describe an urban fox? This is becoming very Alan Partridge, isn't it? It's a British reference to a TV show. Carla, I'm just doing this show for you, my love. This is just for you. All these references to things people are thinking, what is an urban fox? What is an urban fox? It's a fox that lives in the city. Doesn't live out in rural areas, lives in the cities, scavenges for, the waste product that we put out in our trash, goes through the trash at night, yum, 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 yum. They're often, they're quite fat, some urban foxes. They have a good, healthy diet of our trash. No mice, just trash. They eat Chinese takeaway. Suki, thank you for joining me this morning here on Backchannel. I'm Anthony. Great to see you. 6 minutes after 9 Pacific, 6 minutes after noon Eastern. Tina, hi. Thank you for joining us. Great to know you're here. Welcome. We're looking at the front pages of the morning papers here. I'm doing the LA Times at the moment. The mayhem began on Friday night when thieves smashed a Louis Vuitton storefront window in San Francisco's Union Square and ransacked the store. Criminals also targeted about a dozen nearby stores for theft and vandalism, police said, including Burberry and Hermes outlets, an eyeglass shop, and cannabis dispensaries. On Saturday night, the raid of the Nordstrom in nearby Walnut Creek was even more audacious. Just before closing time, 80 people jumped out of a pack of cars, flash mob style, swarmed the aisles, many escaping with merchandise. 2 employees were assaulted, one of them pepper sprayed. And just after midnight on Sunday, criminals used a sledgehammer to smash a storefront window at a Louis Vuitton store and a Saks Fifth Avenue store in Beverly Hills. This is like the pre-Christmas present shopping if you're a criminal, isn't it? They'll be like, should we go and get some Christmas presents for the holiday season? This is what they do. They just smash and grab. No concept that you might need to work, earn, shop, pay, check out. If you're in California, and maybe you live in the Bay Area, maybe you're in Walnut Creek, and you saw any of this, or you've experienced any of this, then, let me know. In the usual way, you can talk to your device. Just say your wake-up word followed by say. That's the magic word, and then your message. So yeah, if you've witnessed anything like this before, then I'm interested to know. I mean, where I'm from in London, they used to have guys on mopeds. They would moped into the city, normally a jewellery shop. Then they would just smash through the front of the jewellery shop, grab a load of stuff, get back on the moped. Zoom, they were off. And they always got caught because there's so much CCTV. They basically, with the cameras, they can just follow them all the way home. It's very interesting to me. There was a jewellery heist in Hatton Garden in London a few years ago, where millions of pounds worth of jewellery was taken. And it was like a movie. I mean, I'm sure that the film rights have been sold for this, but I remember it happening. And it was such an exciting story because it turned out that the guys that did this heist, always men, never women, were really old. Carla, do you remember this story? They were in their 70s and they evaded the police for nearly a year. And they were really old. And they were like proper old school thieves. And they stole millions of pounds worth of jewels. And the way they did it was, I actually think they made a hole in a wall of a building next door. And they kind of burrowed in a little bit like Ocean's 11. or Ocean's 12, or in this case, Ocean's 76. And I was really proud of them. I mean, I don't have respect for people who break the law, but these guys, I was kind of proud of them. I was like, yeah, this is kind of clever. One of them was 70. One of them was like, I mean, they were just like old mates, lifelong criminals. They'd kind of given it up, and they were probably like, here, you want to do one last raid? You want to have one last go? Let's see if we, because, you know, I guess if you're in your like late 70s, what have you got to lose? Go to prison? Lovely. It's like living in an old people's home at that age. Save you a fortune. It's very interesting to me. Have you got the story there, Carla? Producer Carla is thrilled that we've brought up such a great story so early in this show. Yeah. It was the largest burglary in English legal history. Isn't that incredible? Does it say how old they were? Elderly thieves. Mr. Ginger was the lead thief. Mr. Strong. They sound like Mr. Montana. They all had names. This is going to be a movie. How is this not a movie already? It must be in production. Someone must have bought the rights to this. Anyway, if you want to look it up, it was called the Hatton Garden Raid. And Hatton Garden is like a jewellery quarter in London. And he was 76, the main guy. I guessed 76. I mean, it's brilliant. Didn't I? I'm very good at guessing ages. Maybe I read it years ago and it just stuck with me. This kind of happens. I remember the weirdest things. Weirdest things. I can remember like telephone numbers of people. I never have to like look in a phone. I always remember people's phone numbers from the days of using a kind of rotary telephone. Carla just told me that one of them fell asleep on the job. But they still didn't get caught. How long did they evade the authorities for? It was nearly a year before they got caught. Maybe more. Interesting. We're looking at the Los Angeles Times this morning. Heavy Latino district created in OC, it says, in a historic vote. You see, that's incorrect English. That should say in an historic vote. And I never see that in the newspapers. They always put the H after an A, and it shouldn't. It should be in an historic vote. It's very important that we get this right. This is the gift of the language that I'm sharing with you. The Orange County Board of Supervisors on Monday created a majority Latino district for the first time, while also giving power to Asian voters. The lines for the supervisors' districts redone once a decade after the national census, have long been drawn in a way that makes it hard for Latinos to be elected, despite the ethnic group's rapid growth. It's been 15 years since there was a Latino representative on the 5-member board, which oversees a roughly $7.7 billion budget. Many advocates celebrated the vote on Monday afternoon, saying it was a seismic shift that could help Latinos elect candidates who can advocate for issues crucial to their communities, including housing and healthcare. It's very interesting, isn't it? You know, how these kind of redrawing of districts. This is off the back of the 2020 census. You know, hopefully you filled in your census. For people that don't fill in a census, and a census is anonymous, you know, you don't have to put your name on there. But it's very interesting to me that people don't do it because you lose out, you miss out. Your district is going to get more funding if they know there are more people that need to be funded. Hi Bob, Suki, Shannon, Tina. Thank you for joining Backchannel today. Nice to know that you're with us. Also, about 44,000 LA students miss initial vaccine deadline. They say close to 80% of students in the Los Angeles Unified School District are on track to comply with the COVID-19 vaccine mandate, school district officials announced on Monday, raising concerns about the potential for thousands to be displaced from in-person classes for the start of the spring semester on January 10. The figures represent substantial progress, and officials hope many more students have been vaccinated, but simply have not yet uploaded documentation to the school district. About 225,000 students aged 12 and older fall under the mandate. Half of the district's enrollment, based on the percentage, about 44,000 students, have not met the deadline, either by getting at least one shot, obtaining a medical exemption, or receiving a rare extension. It says the experience of LA Unified, the second largest school district in the nation, and the first large system to approve such a requirement, represents an early test of compliance with student vaccine mandates. I have to get my daughter vaccinated. She's 6. To get her vaccinated. And we're going to try and do it this week. I talked to her about it yesterday, and she cried. Just talking to her about it. She doesn't like the shots. I bribed her. I was like, you can have toys, you can have candy, you can have like ice cream, like whatever you want. Get this vaccine, and you and we're going to be pals forever. She'll do it. I know she will. But I just worry that it's a scary thing for kids, scary. That was me that accidentally zoomed in just then. I'm just changing the color intensity because this is a very bright scene. Oh, now it's gone dark again. I mean, what's going on with this? Hang on, let me fix this. There we go. Oh, that's very bright. Okay, there we go. Now we're good. Oh, and then it went dark again. I mean, it's very interesting, this, isn't it? It's like, what's happening here? Are we happy with this? Let's do this. Oh, no, not that. I mean, I'm really enjoying the fact that this keeps changing, like, visually. I'm just pressing all buttons here. I'm pressing a lot of buttons. There we go. We're back. I'm sorry. Oh. It keeps adjusting. Like, one minute it was bright, and the next minute it got dark, and I'm thinking, like, this is not good. I'm not vain, but I like to be able to, like, be bright in here. I want it to be bright in here, and it's gone dark again. Yeah. Be careful, Anthony, because I won't be able to see you, says Stacy. Well, it's a blessing in disguise. Okay, let's go back to this, because I really need to kind of get on with the newspapers, because we're running out of time. We've only got an hour and 40 minutes left of the show. I better get a move on. Final story on the front of the LA Times, the vaccine Thanksgiving. Are you invited? It may depend on a shot, it says. Sorry, I was just adjusting the old earpiece there. Mary Lynn Martinez followed the same Thanksgiving Day routine for years. She'd wake up early, slide the massive fowl into the oven, so that once relatives began to arrive around noon, the savory scent of roasting turkey had filled every nook of her Acton home. While they watched football, she finished making the green beans and yams, careful to adjust recipes so there'd be enough to feed the crowd of 25 friends and extended family members. But this year, for the second Thanksgiving in a row, the 57-year-old grandmother decided to scale way back, hosting only her immediate family. It's just us this year, she said, with a tinge of sadness. Instead of looking for a 27-pound turkey, I'll be looking for a 12-pound one. You see? People, because of the pandemic, are going to have to make some big changes. And if we do not want to see like a huge surge, then we're going to have to make some changes. I still don't know if I'm happy with this lighting here. Do you think the lighting's okay? I feel like I need to like brighten it up again. I'm gonna do something. It's gonna change it. Look, bing. There we go. See, now that's better. There we go. See? Let's see if it's, and then it goes off again. It's really strange. Don't get something. There's something happening here. I think it's always good, if you kind of sense there's something strange going on, to sing a little bit of Buffalo Springfield. Don't you? A battery-operated candle. It's not that. It's the brightness. It keeps changing. Something keeps changing here. See, look. That's. Whoa! Look at me. I feel like I'm going into heaven. I'm going into heaven. Oh, I can see the light. Don't look at the light, but it's so beautiful. Don't look at it. Okay. I'm back. There we go. I've made a few adjustments. It's not ideal, but for now it'll do. There we go. Who even knew you could do these things? No, this is just becoming ridiculous now. It's becoming ridiculous. Okay, let's bounce back, and it's going to change, and it'll be... Oh yeah, let's go to the next newspaper, because otherwise I'm just going to sit here adjusting color, and you're going to be like, is this still a show? Wall Street Journal is on the way, and I also, before then, I want to do Stacey's newspaper, because I know she's waiting very patiently for the Arizona Express. So let's see if it's landed yet. I'm waiting for it to land. Some little newspaper delivery boy is like on his way, making a delivery right now. Okay, where are we? Here we go. I'm really enjoying the music in the background this morning. It sounds like the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire theme. Like I'm just deciding if I want to phone a friend or if I want to use one of my lifelines. This is the $40,000 question. What's it going to be? Interesting, right? Okay, let's thank you for your messages. Stacey says, the San Antonio Express. Oh, yes, that's the newspaper we're going to do, the San Antonio Express. Are you sending it to me, Carla? Because I haven't seen it yet. Or maybe it's further down the list. New York Times, that's on the way. Let's jump into the Wall Street Journal, because I've got it right here. It says, Powell tapped for new Fed term. It's kind of yesterday's news, really, but it says Biden's decision to renominate the bank chief signals a desire for continuity in policy. Yes, President Biden said he would nominate Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell to a second term leading the central bank, opting for continuity in U.S. economic policy despite pushback from some fellow Democrats who wanted someone tougher on bank regulations and climate change. Mr. Biden said he also would nominate Federal Governor Lael Brainard as vice chairwoman of the central bank's board of governors. That's right, because Lael Brainard was going to be the central banker, the Fed governor. And that was the favorite of the progressives in the party. And then he just decided to stick with Jerome. And, Jerome is tinged, isn't he? Because Trump put him in and there was a lot of pressure put on him. But I honestly think Jerome's done okay. He's old school, a bit like Merrick Garland. These are kind of old school, old white men with skills. As long as he doesn't do anything other than like financial fiscal policy, don't ask him his opinion on other stuff. Just stick to the fiscal policy. Jerome. It's a great name, isn't it? Jerome Powell. It's like he should be a singer in the 1950s. Jerome Powell. Progressive groups had mounted a last-ditch campaign to pressure the president to tap Miss Brainard, a Democrat, for the top job, and prominent liberals like Senator Elizabeth Warren had warned the president against re-upping Mr. Powell, who's a Republican who was nominated to the post by Mr. Biden's GOP predecessor, Donald Trump. Who? Do you even remember that name? It says the announcement caps months of behind-the-scenes deliberation by Mr. Biden and his senior aides over one of the world's most important economic policy posts at a time of high inflation and intra-party divisions. So there it is. Also, on the front of the Wall Street Journal, let's try and find... Some of these stories are just a little bit too, financial news, and they're not very interesting. Bank chief faces changed economy. Oh, this is interesting. It's an analysis by Greg Ip, who says over his first term in office, Jerome Powell became arguably the most dovish chairman in the Federal Reserve's modern history, giving priority to full employment in an era which inflation seemed extinct. In his second term, he might have to execute the reverse, giving priority to inflation at the risk of sacrificing jobs. I think, isn't Biden doing a massive speech today about inflation? I think Biden's going to step up to the podium today and make a big speech about it. It's going to be very... there's a lot of heat on him, and I think he wants to explain that this is an unprecedented time you know what I mean? Because we've never had a worldwide pandemic that has lasted over 2 years. We've never had that before. And to expect the economy to just continue ever after and not be affected would just be foolish. Now, obviously, there will be Republicans, opposition to Biden, who are going to blame him. Hi, Shannon. Thanks for coming back. Who are going to blame him for rising inflation. But he didn't do anything. You know what I mean? There's a pandemic. And also, the other thing you have to ask is that, the Federal Reserve is a separate entity to the executive branch. Trump didn't realize that. He was always... Do you remember? He would always go on TV and say they should definitely lower interest rates. He would be... And it's against the law to do that. That's a violation of the Hatch Act or something. You can't say stuff like that. It's supposed to be a separation of powers between the Fed and the president and, of course, the Justice Department. These are all supposed to be separate. But not with the last administration. It was all a bit mushed together, wasn't it? Let's have a look for this. Oh, here we go. Quebec gives CEO French lesson. Oh, this is interesting. This is on a cool, wet Saturday afternoon in the outskirts of Montreal, near the city's main airport. A crowd of about 100 gathered in front of Air Canada's headquarters, demanding the resignation of the airline's chief executive. Had nothing to do with lackluster stock performance at Canada's largest airline. Protesters were mad at the CEO, who has lived in Montreal for roughly 14 years and can't speak French. Marianne Alpine, who's a protest organizer, said, "It is an affront to Quebec." I do love the French. I mean, I spent a lot of time in France, mainly in Paris, but I've been to Cannes and to the coast, to Nice and various regions. But I'll be honest, once you get to realize that the Parisians are naturally rude, it becomes so much more fun. You don't take it personally. You don't think they're being rude at you. That's just how they are. Not you. Not you. I love it. Can I sit here, please? Can I sit here? Not you. Not you. I love it. Bring it on. And if I used to think I speak the worst little bit of terrible French, but I used to love going to Paris. And you really had to just try. If you could try to speak a little bit of French, they would have more respect for you. But if you just went and said, "Oh, could I get a cup of coffee, please?" instead of "un café, s'il vous plaît," just a little bit of French, that's all you have to do is just try. And they'll be like, "Oui, monsieur, oui." And then they'd give you a bit more respect. But if you did it with English, American English, they'd just be like, "Not you." I love it. Okay, so that's the Wall Street Journal done. Let's see what else we have here on the pile. The San Antonio Express is next. This one's for Stacy, who's in Texas. Police say dispute preceded fatal crash. This is, again, coverage of the story in Waukesha, Wisconsin. An SUV driver who plowed into a Christmas parade in suburban Milwaukee, killing at least 5 people and injuring 48, was leaving the scene of a domestic dispute that had taken place just minutes earlier, the city's police chief said on Monday. Children are urged to receive shots soon. This is parents hoping to get their kids fully vaccinated by the new year should sign up for their first COVID shots this week. Federal officials authorized the pediatric Pfizer vaccine for children aged 5 to 11 this month, and health experts say the shots are especially crucial heading into the holiday season. It takes 5 weeks to become fully vaccinated against the virus, with 3 weeks between the 2 required shots and an additional 2 weeks for immunity to develop. Interesting. I didn't realize it took that long. I think I need to get on with the old child vaccination, don't I? Revealing hidden gem. This is a story about a butterfly landing on a thistle outside the Audubon Center in Mitchell Lake. To Dan Crowley, the area around Mitchell Lake is one of the most exciting places on the south side. Stacey, maybe you will corroborate this. Driving through its narrow paths and gesturing out of his truck window, he knows the landscape, its wildlife and its history, the wetland habitat, the ease of Texas A&M University, San Antonio, and north of the Medina River is a haven for birds and a global destination for birders. Birders? What's a birder? Is that like an ornithologist? Is that like a bird watcher? A birder? Is that what they call it in America? A birder? I would love to know that that's true. What an interesting use of the word. In England, we would say an ornithologist or a bird watcher. Anyway, birder. Carla's looking it up. I love learning new things. Yeah, Stacey says they call it a bird watcher. So what's a birder? Is a birder referring to like migration of birds? Very interesting. I'm really not happy with this very dark studio space. I don't know what's going on with the light. Maybe it'll adjust if I like turn the light off and then turn it back on again. Here we go. Oops. Did it adjust? Well, a little bit. It's a little bit better, isn't it? It says after a... at the entrance to the lake is the Audubon Center run by the Texas chapter of the National Audubon Society, an organization dedicated to the conservation of birds and their habitats. After a rickety ride along a dirt trail, Crowley parks his truck at a clearing overlooking the East Pond just north of the lake. Nearly 50 white pelicans are roosting, having migrated from the northwest US and Canada for the winter. Some dip their beaks in the water for fish, others fluff their wings for flight. Sounds wonderful, this, doesn't it? Sounds like a... Hi, Kadeen. Thank you for joining us. This sounds like poetry on the front of the San Antonio Express. Sounds like poetry. More birds fly overhead in a flock, and line of ducks scoot through some reeds. It's a hidden gem over here, says Crowley, Director of Governmental Relations at the San Antonio Water System. It is perhaps too hidden, however, so Soars is working to make it easier for people to enjoy it, Crowley said. Have you been to that, Stacey? Do you know where it is? The Mitchell Lake? Apparently, it's a very beautiful place. What do we call that type of thing? We call it like wetlands. Is it like wetlands? I guess it is. Also on the front of the San Antonio Express, it says when U.S. Representative Henry Corler and immigration attorney Jessica Cisneros face off in a hotly anticipated Democratic primary rematch next year, they'll be competing for votes from a much larger chunk of San Antonio after the district long anchored in Laredo was redrawn to include tens of thousands more potential voters from Bexar County. Hi, Lucy. Thank you. Sorry, Carla? Laredo? Oh, Laredo. What did I say? Something else. Yeah. You say Laredo, I say Laredo. You say potato, and I say patata. Potato, patata, Laredo, Laredo. Let's call the whole thing off. I'm such a wonderful singer. Who knew that I would be sitting here singing songs from the 1940s to you this morning? Who knew? Okay, so that's how the San Antonio Express news looks this morning. We're going to jump next into the... Ooh, what have we got here? I think we might be going to the New York Times. Let's have a little look here. Where do we get to? Wall Street Journal, we've done. New York Times, I knew it. Just had a feeling that was next. They lead with an image of Main Street in Waukesha, the day after a driver toppled barriers and plowed into a crowd at a Christmas parade. It's very sad. I mean, I don't know how this story is going to play out really, but I get a sense that I get a sense the death toll is probably going to increase. It's often the way with these types of incidents. You know, people get taken to hospital and then you don't hear about it for a few days and then they announce that the death toll has risen. That's kind of how it goes. And it's quite tragic. Stephen, thank you for joining us. Lucy, nice. Kadeen, nice. Shannon, thank you. Nice to know that you guys are hanging out with us this morning here on Backchannel. It's 9:35, 25 minutes to 10, as we say in old money. And thank you for joining Backchannel. You can join in just by messaging via the Backchannel web chat. Just go to backchannel.tv. You can also talk to your smart device. You just wake up your speaker with the word say and then your message. And if you're watching us on YouTube, there's a live stream on YouTube right now. There's like a comment section there, and you can communicate that way as well. It says here, he'd been arrested time and time again since he was a teenager, accused of battery and domestic abuse and resisting the police. This month, prosecutors in Milwaukee said he intentionally ran over a woman he knew with a maroon Ford Escape. But Darrell E. Brooks was quickly freed from jail on bond after prosecutors requested what they now say was an inappropriately low bail. By Sunday evening, as a Christmas parade was making its way through downtown Waukesha, the police were coming for Mr. Brooks again after receiving a report of a domestic dispute involving a knife. But before Waukesha officers ever reached the site of that dispute, a maroon Ford Escape toppled barriers along the parade route. The police said that Mr. Brooks was the driver, and that he sped towards the marching bands and the smiling families and the troop of dancing grannies strolling down Main Street, charging on even as he mowed down children and octogenarians. One police officer fired his gun at Mr. Brooks, but quickly stopped, fearful of hitting someone in the crowd. Oh man, I mean this, I was thinking this a few years ago when there was quite a lot of this, mowing people down, protesters mainly. It happened in Charlottesville, and there was a couple of other big protests, or possibly even parades where this happened. Then one happened in France. But it occurred to me that this is like a new form of modern warfare. They can take guns away from us to prevent us from doing harm. But they're never going to take cars away, and cars are a deadly weapon. To plow a vehicle into a crowd is like a surefire way to, commit domestic terrorism. And it's impossible to police. It's impossible. Because everywhere there are crowds and everywhere there are cars. The only variable is the intent of an individual. And this is why we really, all of us, we have to think very hard about, what it is that we are able to tolerate when we're out. I get a little anxious in crowds. I just do. I don't really like being out in crowds. I just don't. I get a bit anxious. And I've become more anxious over time and over the years. And I hate that about myself. I wish that this didn't have that effect on me, but for some reason it does. And, since the bombings on the London Underground, the subway, I stopped using the subway for a long time. And then after a while, when I started to use it again, I started to have panic attacks and I stopped using it. And I would get off. I was late for work a couple of times because I'd got on the subway, had a bit of a panic attack, had to get off like 1 or 2 stops later. And then I'm stranded in London, like miles from where I want to be. And like, there's no way to get there by car because the traffic moves at like 3 miles an hour. Hi, Zander. Thank you for joining us here on Backchannel. Stephen, Lucy, Kadeen, Shannon, Stacy, everybody. Thank you. Lovely. 9:39 here on Backchannel. It's the 23rd of November? Wow. We're going to talk a little bit more about travel anxiety later in the program. So if you are somebody who also gets a little anxious when traveling on public transit, then maybe you'd like to join me for that, because it's a big subject. It's a big subject. Putin tries to erase history of Gulag atrocities. This is a story out of Moscow. It says, in the days after the collapse of the Soviet Union, the upheaval and uncertainty that gripped Russia were accompanied by a liberating climate of openness in which free expression, historical examination, and political dissent could flourish. But in the 2 decades since Vladimir Putin took power, the government has steadily rolled back those rights. Mr. Putin has tamed the oligarch class, muffled the media, jailed religious groups and dissidents, and suppressed political opposition. Now, Mr. Putin has set his sights on rewriting the memory of one of the most painful times in Russia's turbulent history, the era of the Gulag, when millions of Russians toiled and died, mostly in the first half of the 20th century. Russian prosecutors are moving to liquidate the Archive and Human Rights Center of Memorial International, the country's most prominent human rights organization, which is dedicated to the remembrance of those who were persecuted by the Soviet Union's often brutal regime. It's tragic, isn't it, that, this is what happens if you get authoritarians in power. And, Putin's been in power for like 20 years. He was prime minister, then he was president, and now he's like given himself this lifelong role where he basically can never be voted out. He's just like, and they do this. Trump joked about it. Do you remember? But he was not joking. He wasn't joking when he said, maybe I'll just stay president forever. He wasn't joking. And so this is something that we, in a modern democracy, have to be very aware of, that all of these things start out as jokes. It's like, oh, no, just like a bit of fun. And then, in time, they become a fixture, and we don't notice because it happens over time. I often think about, even when I was living in the UK, if all of the regulations, all of the rules and the new laws and the and even like in America, of course, the amendments to the Constitution, like if everything happened on one day, instead of happening over decades, if it all happened on one day, you would be like, no way. Like, you're changing everything. I cannot live in this new world. But by easing these things out over decades, it makes them palatable. We're digestible. We are able to kind of handle the change. But the reality is that change is significant. It's seismic, and we don't really realize because they just drip, drip, drip the change. Whether it be deregulation or regulation. Emily, hi. Angel, hi. Thank you for joining us on Backchannel. It's 9:42. We're going to do a news update at 1:45, if that's okay, Carla. We're going to, find out what's happening across the world. I do a daily podcast called US News Update. We'll do that in a couple of minutes. Give me a chance to adjust my earpiece, which has been causing me no end of chaos since the start of this show. Because inside these headphones is another set of headphones. I'm like in a box, in a box, in a box. And then my brain's in another box, brain box. You try doing your job inside 4 boxes. I'm like the Christmas gift that nobody wants. Assembly adds to the findings against Cuomo. Also on the front of the New York Times this morning, an 8-month investigation by New York State Assembly found overwhelming evidence that former Governor Andrew Cuomo engaged in sexual harassment while in office, corroborating a damning investigation by the State Attorney General that Mr. Cuomo has repeatedly tried to discredit. It says the investigation also found that Mr. Cuomo abused his power to help produce what would become a $5.1 million pandemic memoir, providing new details about just how much of the governor's staff was used to help him write, publish, and promote his book. The Assembly inquiry was meant to create a roadmap for potential impeachment proceedings against Mr. Cuomo, a 3-term governor whose unrelenting style of leadership engendered varying amounts of fear, respect, and animus. But that prospect was rendered moot after he resigned in disgrace in August, a week after the release of the Attorney General's report, which concluded that he had sexually harassed 11 women. I mean, I just like the zero tolerance policy on this. It's decades overdue, isn't it? Just zero tolerance. 1 strike and you're out. It doesn't pay to be machismo. Do you know what I mean by that? It doesn't pay to be machismo. Like, lose some of the testosterone, my friend. Just see and listen. Mainly listen. Just listen. Okay, let's take a little break. Just 2 minutes. This is the US News Update podcast from Volley. It's Tuesday, November 23. From the Volley Network, this is your daily US news update. I'm Anthony Davis. President Joe Biden intends to run for re-election in 2024, White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki told reporters yesterday. 79-year-old Biden has suffered a dip in his job approval ratings in recent months, leading some Democrats to wonder whether he might not seek another 4-year term. He is, that's his intention, Psaki said, as Biden flew aboard Air Force One for a Thanksgiving event with U.S. troops in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Democrats were rattled by Republican victories in Virginia elections earlier this month and a narrow Democratic victory in New Jersey. Biden's political prospects appear to have been buoyed last week by congressional passage of a $1 trillion infrastructure plan. Still being needed is another $2 trillion in spending on a social safety net package. Meanwhile, the U.S. House of Representatives committee probing the deadly January 6 riot at the Capitol has issued subpoenas to Alex Jones, founder of the far-right-wing website InfoWars, and Roger Stone, an ally of former President Trump. The committee also issued subpoenas seeking documents and testimony from Dustin Stockton, a political activist linked to longtime Trump advisor Steve Bannon, and Stockton's fiancée Jennifer Lawrence. The panel has now issued more than 36 subpoenas and received testimony from more than 200 witnesses. Finally, Joe Biden cited unprecedented pressure that former President Trump directed at Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and I'm back. As one reason to re-nominate him on Monday, with Lael Brainard, who has also been under consideration for the top job as vice chair. Your daily US news update is part of the Volley Network. To interact with my live daily morning show, our Amazon Echo Show device to open Backchannel. There it is. Yes, that is US News Update. It's a podcast that I do every single day. So if you would like to subscribe, just go to wherever you get your podcasts. It's just 2 minutes of the news in the US. And it's a great opportunity to kind of just get a sense of what's going on without wasting too much of your own time. We've been looking at the New York Times, the Andrew Cuomo story, also hearing a lot about Jerome Powell being renominated by President Joe Biden, and Putin erasing the history of Gulag atrocities. So that's kind of how the New York Times leads. There is a story here I want to do about widespread flight cancellations, excruciating waits for customer service, unruly passengers. That was all before the holiday travel season. It says even in normal times, the days around Thanksgiving are a delicate period for the airlines. But this week is the industry's biggest since the pandemic began, as millions more Americans, emboldened by vaccinations and reluctant to spend another holiday alone, are expected to take to the skies than during last year's holidays. And a lot is riding on the carrier's ability to pull it off smoothly. Yeah, I'm a little nervous about this. I'm doing a flight myself over to Cleveland, and I'm thinking, how is it going to be affected by Thanksgiving travel? But it's after Thanksgiving. You know, Thanksgiving's on Thursday, and I'm not going till Monday. And I was thinking, is Thanksgiving travel trouble over by then? Or do people, I guess people travel back on the Monday, don't they? It's hard to say. I'm not experienced enough in the Thanksgiving holiday to know. Finally, anger fills Europe's streets as lockdowns spread. This is a story about Austria going into a major lockdown yesterday to try to break the strong fourth wave of COVID spreading across Europe, while German health minister warns that by the end of the winter, just about everyone in Germany will probably be either vaccinated, recovered, or dead. He didn't mince his words, did he? I'll be honest, I actually don't have a problem with that kind of language when it comes to this, because I have a bit of a short fuse with people that are slowing it down for everybody else. I do think that there is a way out of the pandemic pretty quickly. But my biggest concern is like developing nations who just don't have enough vaccines. So all the rich nations, everyone will get vaccinated, or most people. There'll be like 6 people that won't. But developing nations, you only have to look to Africa as a continent to recognize that they just can't get vaccine. And in fact, some of them now are having to buy Chinese vaccine or Russian vaccine. Sputnik 5, it's called, the Russian vaccine. I heard somebody on NPR, a journalist, describe Sputnik 5 vaccine as Sputnik V. And I was just like, oh, really? On National Public Radio? Really? Sputnik V? I mean, I know that Latin is like an antiquated language and people don't really use it very much anymore, especially in, ancient Rome. But I just feel like there are some things you should know if you want to call yourself a journalist. I just think that you should just know. I mean, I wonder if he even knew the reference to Sputnik. Sputnik, of course, being the first satellite that was launched into space by the Russian space program in the early 1960s. You know about this. And then Yuri Gagarin, the first Russian astronaut to be sent into space. He beat the Americans, beat the British, beat everyone. The British never really had a space program. They couldn't even launch a firework. But I guess that maybe there's a thing about Russia that here in America we're maybe a little frightened to celebrate because we want to know that Buzz Lightyear and Louis Armstrong were the first men on the moon, and that was the moment at which the space program began. But actually the Sputnik satellite launched by the Russians 20 years earlier, and then they put a monkey into space first before Yuri Gagarin went. The Russians sent a monkey into space. There's some great footage of what was he? He was a chimpanzee. He was a chimpanzee. Do you think this kind of knowledge is important? Like, should I retain stuff like this? Should you retain stuff like this? Should we this is just like ancient history? I really do like watching those historical catch-up documentaries, where they go through the decades and they tell you like all the fun stuff that happened around the world that time, the fall of the Berlin Wall and the an actor getting the job as president of the United States in the 1980s. I love that line in Back to the Future where he goes, "Who's president?" And he goes, "Ronald Reagan." And the guy goes, "The actor?" You're muted, Carla, darling. Sorry. The French launched a cat in 1963. Un chat. Un chat avec l'espace. Get me? Yeah, but they didn't beat the monkey. The monkey was first. The monkey happened in 1962 from the Russians. And then Yuri Gagarin went up in 1963, 1964, and then the Apollo mission wasn't until 67 and 69, right? I mean, you got to remember that this was in the thick of the Cold War. This was the thick of the Cold War, so it was like a competition between the Americans and the Russians, like who could get to space first, and then who could land on the moon first. And the Russians were very good when Buzz Lightyear buzzed around the moon. And we always forget Michael Collins, don't we? I forgot his name the other day. We must never forget Michael Collins, of course. He was the pilot that basically flew the LEM to make sure that these guys were going to get home. Like he was there up in, he was like, he made sure that Buzz and Louis were going to come back. Yeah. Stacy said that didn't sound quite right. Oh, what, le chat? No, that's French. For cat. C-H-A-T. Le chat. It's like the start of Chateau, Cat House. Trey, thank you for joining us. Hi, Dylan, Bob, Angel, Emily, Xander, Stacy. If you're listening to Backchannel or watching Backchannel or joining the Backchannel, you can talk, of course. Just talk to your device, say the word, whatever the wake-up word is, the activation word, followed by say, and then your message. And then that comes straight through to me, and you just say the words, they come through to me. I don't hear your words, I see your words. And then you can use the web chat, backchannel.tv, and you can join in that way as well. So many ways to join in with Backchannel. Pick your favorite, is what I say. Pick your favorite. So that's the New York Times done. I just want to remind you that Volley has a growing list of shows, including Haley and Allison Live, waking you up in the morning with lots of laughs and their one-star cinema review, or Live every day. Liv Harrison, live from Texas, celebrating the little things in life with plenty of coffee. And then, of course, Hal Rudnick will be here after me, the charming, funny, handsome, vivacious, empathetic Hal Rudnick, otherwise known as Your Pal Hal. Apparently, he's just as nice about me. So, I want to talk about kind of travel, holiday travel in just a little while, because that's all about to kick off. And maybe you're leaving home. Maybe you're going to have to take your Echo Show with you so you can continue watching Backchannel when you're at your parents' house. The Freelance Star now. Most federal workers get vax, it says. More than 90% of federal workers received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine by Monday's deadline set by President Joe Biden. I've had 3 vaccines now. I've had 3, and there's nothing wrong with me at all. I'm completely fine. I do think that the proof of the success of the vaccine program is that 6 billion people around the world have been vaccinated and everyone's doing okay. That's the genius of this whole vaccination program, is that to say it's untested is not really it's not really an argument anymore. When 6 billion people around the world have been vaccinated, it's probably more than that now. Obviously, they vaccinate probably another million every day, more than 1 million every day, I'm sure. Be interesting to know, wouldn't it? Biden announced in September that more than 3.5 million federal workers were required to undergo vaccination with no option to get regularly tested instead, unless they secured an approved medical or religious exemption. I mean, unfortunately, there's been quite a few kind of right-wing doctors, vets, dentists that have been writing sick notes for other anti-vaxxers. And they've been getting around this. And then I'm also sure that there's probably quite a large... Hi, Trey. Thanks for coming back. There's quite a large contingent of people with fake vaccination cards. And that is the ultimate atrocity, isn't it? Because what you're effectively doing is you're prolonging the life of the virus. You're prolonging the life of the pandemic by pretending to be vaccinated. Hi, Layla. Thanks for joining Backchannel. I'm Anthony, 9:58 here on the West Coast. Let's also move around we're looking at the Freelance Star right now. This is a little bit of newspaper review just in the first hour of this show. Bulk of local clinic shots are boosters. It says almost 3 of every 4 shots given in the last month at the Community Vaccination Centre in Central Park went to fully vaccinated people looking to boost their immunity against COVID-19, according to local health officials. The clinic opened more than 4 weeks ago and is one of 10 state-run centres operated by the Virginia Department of Health. And as of Sunday, it has administered 9,306 boosters and third shots, said Mary Chamberlain, Public Information Officer with the Rappahannock Area Health District. So there we go. Have you got your booster yet? You getting a booster? I got my booster 2 weeks ago? I got it before I was allowed to get a booster. I just was like, I'll just go get a booster. And then, I was like, fingers crossed they'll approve the booster for everybody under 65. And then a week later they did, and I was like, phew. Also, a story about this atrocity in Waukesha. And it says the SUV driver who ploughed into a Christmas parade in suburban Milwaukee, killing at least 5 and injuring 48, was leaving the scene of domestic dispute that had taken place just minutes earlier. Suspect in parade deaths has long criminal record, is the headline. So there we go. That's kind of the morning papers. I do want to talk about one of these particular stories. We've been talking about these additional lockdowns in Europe. And I was kind of interested to ask you if you felt that the US was really best placed to go into another lockdown. Some coverage of this morning says, don't expect the US to lock down again, even though some European countries are reimposing tough COVID-19 restrictions amid a surge in new cases. We are not headed in that direction, White House coronavirus response coordinator Jeff Zients said yesterday at a press briefing. We can curb the spread of the virus without having to in any way shut down our economy. We have 82% of people now with one shot and more people getting vaccinated each week. That vaccination rate is even higher among government workers who faced a Monday deadline to get their shots. What happened to all those police officers and fire officers that the unions were protecting from having to get vaccinated? And I was asking the other day, why does the police and the fire service align so much with the right wing, spreading the misinformation about vaccination? This kind of anti-vax movement. Why is so many law enforcement on the right? And does that kind of beg extra questions about the attitude of law enforcement maybe towards African Americans? It's very interesting to me, this kind of socio-economic problems that we have here in America and how we can try and learn a little bit more about who these groups are, who people are. I always ask the question, what type of a person joins the police service in the first place? What is in America, given the opportunity to kind of have a firearm on you at all times and be allowed to discharge it without consequences? What type of person does that, joins that elite group? It's very interesting to me. Just asking the questions. I'm really looking forward to getting my other glasses back. I've been wearing clear glasses, and these are the black ones, and these feel quite heavy and maybe a bit dirty this morning. I'm really excited. In a couple of days, I'm going to get the other glass. I accidentally smashed them, so I'm looking forward to getting the new ones back. And they're going to have I paid a little extra $100 to get a better quality lens, that's thinner. If you wear glasses all the time, the face furniture is important to you. It's something you care about, something you want to. You want to know that you've got your best vision. My close-up vision has become terrible now. I can't read things that are too small. I have to hold them right up to my face like some kind of 97-year-old grandparent. It's the Anthony Davis Show. This is Backchannel. It's 3 minutes after 10 Pacific, 3 minutes after 1 Eastern. And thank you for spending your morning with us, or indeed your afternoon. 74% of Americans over the age of 5 have received at least one shot. 63% are fully vaccinated, according to the latest data from the CDC. The 82% figure cited by Zients refers to adults over 18 with at least one shot. He said, "This is under our control. We need to use the tools we have, vaccinations, boosters, and antibody treatments to keep people safe without going backwards in any way, shape, or form." The other thing they're going to have soon, which I think is very interesting, is they're going to have pills. Merck and Pfizer are both seeking authorization for a pill that if you get COVID, you can take, and it will prevent you from going to hospital. It's very interesting to me. New COVID cases are on the rise in the US, but Europe is currently the hotbed for new infections, with Austria instituting a national lockdown yesterday, and the Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, Italy, Switzerland, Croatia imposing new restrictions. And I quoted Germany's health minister earlier. His name is Jens Spahn. He gave an ominous warning on Monday that by the end of winter, he said pretty much everyone in Germany will either be vaccinated, cured, or dead. The high rate of infections in certain parts of the US from previous COVID waves may actually help somewhat, according to the former FDA commissioner. He said when you look at the total immunity in the German population, it's probably lower than the US. It's very interesting. You know, Germany and the US are very different countries in many ways. I mean, this is the reason why it's spreading so much in Europe, because Europe is a continent with a whole bunch of countries in it. I mean, if they split the US up into 50 countries instead of states, then we would probably see similar statistics. But the way it's divided up, you know, Germany is a huge country on European standards, but if you move it over here, it would be massive, you know, as big as California. And so people have free movement in Europe. Oh, my neck just went. People have free movement in Europe. Shouldn't do those fast movements. Something just happened. So you can leave Germany and you can go to France. You can leave Germany and go to Spain. You can leave Germany and go to Brussels. Like these places, they're all interconnected. And so the coronavirus is more likely to spread around a continent that has a variety of countries in it. And because we measure coronavirus country by country, obviously coronavirus does not stop at land borders. It doesn't go, whoa, hang on a second, we're leaving Germany. It just wouldn't do that. They're like, oh, what is that, Switzerland? Let's not go into Switzerland. Their numbers are too good. We don't want to ruin their numbers. We'll stay here in Germany. Coronavirus doesn't do that. So this is why Europe is like a hotbed, because statistically it's probably more likely to be presented as a hotbed because of the way numbers are measured. But in America, it's probably just as much of a hotbed here, but we're just much more spread out. And the national measurement is just huge. Anyway, very interested to know about the people that have left their profession because they didn't want to get vaccinated. They're calling it the Great Resignation. It's erupted in America's consciousness, they say, referring to the waves of people leaving the workforce and the difficulty companies are having in finding replacements. Interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Would you leave a job because you didn't want to get vaccinated and it was a requirement? I kind of feel like you'd have to be a certain kind of person, wouldn't you? You'd really have to be a certain kind of person. So yeah, we're looking at this story. Angel, thank you for joining us. Oh, it was in the hot neck. Oh, you're talking about my neck issue. Yeah, I just twisted in the wrong way. I think I spend a lot of time looking at the computer sideways. It's really not good for my neck. You know, you got to get your ergonomics good. Maybe I'll go into the recline just for a moment, just to kind of, you know. Hi, Maddie. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for joining Backchannel. It's 8 minutes after 10. It's Tuesday morning, the 23rd of November. We're 2 days short of Thanksgiving. Oh, I need to go and do a bit of Thanksgiving shopping in the store today. I need to get a fake turkey. Because I don't eat meat, and there are some very good turkey replacement products out there. Fake turkey. There's actually a company called Tofurkey. I'm not making this up, it's true. They're called Tofurkey. And they sell replacement meat products. They do sausages and they do deli ham slices and all sorts of things. They're called Tofurkey. And they do a very good fake roast. It's like a... Carla's like... Well, yeah, but in England, she says she hates the fake stuff. In England, these products have not permeated the shelves like they have here in Los Angeles. Not to this extent. The thing is about turkey is that, and we're talking about the bird, not the country. I was talking about the country a couple of days ago, but today I'm talking about the bird. It doesn't really taste of anything. Turkey is all about texture. Turkey has less taste than chicken. I mean, I've eaten meat my whole life until 2 years ago, so I know what I'm talking about. Turkey just is texture. So if a fake meat company can create a texture that is similar to turkey that you're going to cover in gravy and vegetables and stuffing and cranberry sauce and all that stuff, what difference if it's not meat? There's no flavor to it. Turkey is flavored by the condiments and the accompaniments, the accoutrement. Maintenant. Don't shake your head, Carla. It's true. Okay, you tell me what turkey tastes of. What does it taste like? It's like licking a wall. It would have been very hard for me to have migrated away from meat and not had some fake alternatives to help me migrate. Do you see what I mean? Like, yeah, I would love to get to the point where I just eat vegetables. It's like using a nicotine patch or nicotine gum to get off cigarettes. It's a gateway to a better life. But my point is that, like, I needed fake burgers because I love burger. And the Impossible Burger and the Beyond Meat burger, when you put them in a bun and you add fake cheese and you add lettuce and tomato and burger sauce and tomato ketchup and mustard and a gherkin. Oh my God, I am really getting hungry now. I literally just dribbled down my chin. The burger, the meat is just a small part of that thing. You don't think, oh, I want a cheeseburger because I want meat. You want a cheeseburger because you want the experience and the texture. And I'll be honest, if you go to some of the big burger joints, you know, the fast food joints, the meat doesn't taste of anything. There's barely any meat in there. It's just like gristle that's been hit with a hammer. It's disgusting. I'd rather have pea protein or soy protein that has been processed to have a meaty texture that is full of plants. I'd much rather have that than eat some garbage. I understand if you're talking about getting like a luxury meat or a steak or something that is like really high quality meat. But you can't say that a fake meat product is not a better replacement than garbage meat. I mean, what's in a hot dog? There's no meat in a hot dog. It's disgusting. Like, we give our kids hot dogs. Are we crazy? There is zero nutrition in a hot dog. The only thing you're going to get in a hot dog is salt. It's the meat lobby. You know, it's made us think over years and over time that actually, you know, meat is best. And best for what? What's meat best for? We don't need it. Like, it's not essential. If we're eating the right kind of vegetables, we don't need meat. But the problem is, people think that eating bad meat is the equivalent of eating meat, and it really isn't. You can't eat bad meat and expect any nourishment or nutrition from it. And I'm talking about everything from like chicken nuggets that you buy like in bulk. I'm guilty of it. Give my kids chicken nuggets. And these things, I mean, certainly here in America, you know, antibiotics and I mean, I love the fact that here they advertise some chicken nugget products as antibiotic free. Like, that's a unique selling point. The quality of meat in America is really poor. You know, there's a ban on chlorinated chicken coming out of America into Europe. You can't import chicken to Europe from America because the quality is not good enough. They've banned it because it's chlorinated and it's injected with water to fill it and make it plump. And it's the same with bread here. You know, bread is carcinogenic. You walk along the aisles in the supermarkets in the US and they have little signs that say that there are carcinogenic properties to this bread and we will not be held responsible. There are actual disclaimers in the aisles. And I think to myself, having grown up in Europe, like, just don't sell that bread. But to sell carcinogenic bread with a caveat, to me, is like, it's just doesn't make any sense. And yet people still buy it. You know, there's a bread here that I love so much that I can't find in Europe. It's honey wheat. Do you know what that is? Where it's basically just the sweetest. It's like a sandwich loaf, but it's like honey wheat. Like, they call it honey, they mean sugar. It's a sugar loaf. It's so sweet, you could toast it and you don't have to put anything on it. It's delicious. But it's so bad for you. It's very interesting to me. All of this stuff is very interesting to me. Hopefully it's interesting to you too, because this is basically the show. You know, this is the show. We try and talk about stuff that we might not think about on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, next time you're in the store and you're looking at buying bread, just check out to see if there are any carcinogens in there. And look at the... In England, we used to call them E numbers. But I think here they're like additives, you know, and preservatives. E175. I mean, our bodies do not need these things. This is why I've never understood why milk lasts so long here. Like, I can buy a carton of milk and it lasts a month once it's been opened. And I'm like, I don't think that's supposed to last that long. There must be something in there that is preventing that milk from going bad. Stacey has to leave now. Thank you for joining us on Backchannel. She's going to have her bath. Thank you. She says hot dog is made from a weaning and blood. Sounds disgusting, doesn't it? I mean, I know that haggis, you know, the Scottish breakfast snack, is made of a pig's bladder. There are some things that in the meat replacement sector they're not going to replace, and I think that haggis is probably one of those things. No, nobody needs a fake one of those. They are actually working on a fake steak that looks like an actual proper fillet steak, and cuts and tastes and looks and bleeds like a proper filet de boeuf. They've got it down. There's a company in California doing it, I think. And I saw a video on Instagram of a guy like cutting it and eating it. It was not a good video, but it did look interesting, and I would be prepared to try that. Are there vegan butchers in England? What do they hang in the window? Giant peas. What does the truck look like delivering from the abattoir? Very interesting to me. So we've been looking at coronavirus and asking if you would leave a job because you didn't want to get vaccinated, if there were rules that required you on that day to be doing just that. Interesting. Let's go back to the other thing I wanted to talk to you about today. This is travel anxiety. Now, this is a thing that we touched on earlier. It's very important. For many of us this time of year, it's the first time we'll have made it further than the state line in a couple of years, whether you're driving or flying. I'm interested to know how you are feeling about making the journey. Maybe the pandemic has made you socially anxious about traveling for the first time. Where are you heading? What precautions are you thinking of taking? Because caution remains high when it comes to holiday gatherings, according to a new survey commissioned by Ohio State University's Wexner Medical Center. It says almost 72% of poll respondents said they plan to limit their celebration to members of their household, and 51% said they will request that guests wear masks. The latter is down from 67% last year, but it still reflects a high level of concern about a virus that has infected more than 47 million and killed 760,000 plus in this country. But for those of us who are traveling, is the prospect filling you with a little bit of dread? I'm dreading it, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm looking forward to going and seeing my colleagues, but the idea of traveling there is making me a little bit nervous. Because I'm not convinced that everybody on the plane won't be in some way carrying coronavirus. But then again, I'm triple boosted, So I should be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. A lot of it is, is in our minds. This idea of this horrific death. But I think that once you're vaccinated, it mitigates all of that. And the only people now that are in hospital predominantly are unvaccinated people, which means that they have now found a cure effectively. So what does travel anxiety look like in 2021? You know, what does it mean to be anxious when you travel? I'm fascinated about this. I mean, I really feel like this is going to be a whole new thing now, just dealing with the anxiety of just getting on a plane or a train. And as we roll into the new year, still battling the same pandemic-induced dilemmas that troubled us in 2020. It seems that stress and anxiety are here to stay for a while. Just leaving the house for basic necessities requires an extended mental checklist with face masks and hand sanitizer top of mind. But for those who go much farther than the front door, traveling now demands more preparation than ever before, and it's all done with the threat of COVID-19 looming in the air. Anxiety, however, is nothing new for Americans. Andrew Rosen, a clinical psychologist and the founder of the Center for Treatment of Anxiety and Mood Disorders, told us last year that about 40 million Americans are diagnosed with anxiety disorder. Even more people, about 25% of the population, are specifically anxious about travel, and those are pre-pandemic numbers. So in today's world of lockdowns, record unemployment, social distancing, it's safe to say those statistics are probably higher now. From working the front lines at higher rates to insidious gender roles, giving them even more responsibilities at home, women are taking the brunt of the pandemic's impact. And with statistics showing that women travel more than men, especially solo, the stress of traveling in times of COVID may fall on their shoulders as well, even for women who previously didn't struggle with travel anxiety. I think that water's gone bad. It's been sitting there for like 2 weeks. I literally might as well just stick my head in the sewage outlet. That was disgusting. I would love a really nice hot tea right now. A really nice Earl Grey for the last half an hour of the show, just so I could kick back and chat with you and you could chat with me with a nice Earl Grey. Sadly, there is no one to deliver this kind of, in the olden days, working in radio stations, if you fancied a cup of tea, someone would go and get you a cup of tea, Or I actually used to run and go and get my own cup of tea, because I would be like, I'm off. I could get out of the studio in a 2.5 minute commercial break. I could go down the corridor, up a flight of stairs, down another corridor, into a kitchen. We had one of those water boilers, that was permanently making hot water, so you didn't have to wait for a kettle or anything. I would make the tea, and I would run back with it, and most of it would spill over my hand, burn me, and get back in the seat with like 25 seconds to spare with a nice hot cup of tea. And they'd be like, where are you going? I'd be like, I've got to get out of here. I've never been very good at sitting still in one place. I mean, it's amazing I'm able to do this, to be honest, without wanting to just go for a walk. I mean, maybe one day I'll just do this with my phone, and I'll put the headphones on and I'll just go for a walk in the hills, and we could just backchannel together like this, just on a stroll. I mean, there is the potential to do that. We have the technology to do that. When I go to the airport, yeah, I could do it at the airport. No, I mean, I'll be honest, I've timed the whole airport thing that I'm going at times after Backchannel and between Backchannel. I'll be doing Backchannel from Cleveland, though. I'll be looking forward to coming to you live from a Hilton hotel bedroom. That's going to be fun, isn't it? Just you and me sitting on the bed together. So we're talking about travel anxiety this morning, and whether or not you are concerned about Thanksgiving and having family over, or traveling to see family, and what that feels like. What does it feel like? When was the last time somebody really asked you what something felt like? People often ask, what do you think? But I'm over that now. I don't feel like I want to live in a world where I have to think about what I think, because what I think and what I feel are two different things. And I'm really starting to learn how to feel things first and then think about them afterwards. And for too long, I think we as a society have been putting our thoughts first ahead of our feelings. Not anymore. You know, we are an emotionally charged, but also an emotionally bankrupt society. You know, we are very we're very like gun-ho with our views and our thoughts, and we think it's our emotions, but actually it's not our emotions. It's our thoughts. And I feel like, you know, emotion, this is why I think that people are actually are all born good, and people have very good intentions. And I think that all of this division, this political division that we're experiencing in America, I don't think it comes from the heart. I think it's in the head. I think fundamentally people are actually very similar. I think most people don't want the death penalty. Most people trust women to make their own choices about abortion. I think people are not racist. They genuinely care about their fellow man or woman, but they just feel so tribal politically that they feel like they need to jump on a bandwagon. But I actually think it's about time we started to think about how we feel about something rather than what we think about something. Because, you know, our brain can lie to us, can trick us. But our soul, our heart, our emotions are much more honest about all of these things. We deserve the opportunity to slow down our environment enough that we can just say, you know, can I get back to you on that? I think this is something we really need to learn. Instead of like snap decisions, give me an answer, we're just like, no. Let me think about it, feel it, and then I'll come back to you. This desire to like rush every decision and not really give it the contemplation and the space that it warrants and deserves. And I've spent a lot of time recently just with my thoughts and with my feelings, and I really feel like it's making me a better person. And maybe it's the same for you. You can message me here on Backchannel. You just have to say the wake up word to your device, and then you can use the word say and then your message. And it'll just appear here for me. You can also use our web chat facility. Just go to backchannel.tv and type to your heart's content. And if you're watching this on Facebook, I was going to say FaceTime, but that's actually not the case at all. If you're watching this on YouTube, YouTube always sounds funnier if you put the emphasis on tube and not on you. I do the same with Netflix. Don't you find that like things are better if you just put the emphasis on the wrong word? Because it makes people listen more. Because it's like, what? Did you see Netflix last night? I've been watching the morning show on Apple TV+. Oh man, last night was such a cliffhanger. I am struggling to not watch the next episode right now. I'm tempted just to put it on here and you and I can watch it together and you can watch me emote, because I was emoting a lot last night whilst watching that show. It might be one of the best programs that's ever been made. Like, it might be one of the most brilliant pieces of television in history. I mean, I honestly think that when you've got the kind of budget that Apple has to make television, you really don't need to worry as a viewer that this isn't going to be good. It's gonna be good. And you know the other reason why the morning show is so good? Because it's made by women. You know, it's like it's been curated and the ideas have been generated and formulated. It's been written and then been directed by majority women. And I feel like as a show, it's just much more connective and much more compassionate and has more depth. I don't know that men write so well in that sphere. You know? We were discussing this yesterday, and I was basically saying that girls just really seem to be better at everything than boys. Just much more together and efficient and deep and organized. And you know, we really need to recognize that in the workspace now, in the workplace, because in America, men are still paid at least 20% more than women. where I'm from in England, it's approaching parity, but it's still not close. I mean, it's still not there yet. This concept of the glass ceiling, where there is a limit to what women can earn, it just doesn't make any sense. It's 10:30. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. It's the Anthony Davis Show. Every morning between 9 and 11 Pacific. That's noon and 2 Eastern. Yes, Carla. Oh yes, we're gonna take a little pause just to play you the podcast that I make each day. I'm a busy man. I'm busy. I'm quite busy making shows, and so there's another show I make for Volley called US News Update. It's just 2 minutes. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Let's listen to it now, and I'm not going to touch anything, and nor's Carla. We'll see if it plays all the way through without a break. Here it is. It's Tuesday, November 23. From the Volley Network, this is your daily US News Update. I'm Anthony Davis. President Joe Biden intends to run for re-election in 2024, White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki told reporters yesterday. 79-year-old Biden has suffered a dip in his job approval ratings in recent months, leading some Democrats to wonder whether he might not seek another 4-year term. He is. That's his intention, Psaki said, as Biden flew aboard Air Force One for a Thanksgiving event with U.S. troops in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Democrats were rattled by Republican victories in Virginia's state elections earlier this month and a narrow Democratic victory in New Jersey. Biden's political prospects appear to have been buoyed last week by congressional passage of a $1 trillion infrastructure plan. Still being debated is another $2 trillion in spending on a social safety net package. Meanwhile, the U.S. House of Representatives committee probing the deadly January 6 riot at the Capitol has issued subpoenas to Alex Jones, founder of the far-right-wing website InfoWars, and Roger Stone, an ally of former President Trump. The committee also issued subpoenas seeking documents and testimony from Dustin Stockton, a political activist linked to longtime Trump advisor Steve Bannon, and Stockton's fiancée Jennifer Lawrence. The panel has now issued more than 36 subpoenas and received testimony from more than 200 witnesses. Finally, Joe Biden cited unprecedented pressure that former President Trump directed at Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell as one reason to renominate. Oh, there we go. I return into this little box, which becomes a big box. That was US News Update. Sorry about the gaps. We're just, ironing out some of the tech. But if you want to subscribe, you just go to wherever you get your podcast. You search for US News Update. And it's like a daily thing. Chance for you to kind of find out, just in a couple of minutes, what's happening across America. It's 10:33. This is Backchannel. I'm Anthony Davis. Thank you for hanging out with me this morning. We're talking about the US not heading towards a COVID lockdown as some European nations are re-locking downing. Re-lockdowning-ing. Locking down again-ing. And I just feel like, the way people are here, they're just like, no, we're done now. We're done with this. Let's move on. And I get that, I get it. Lucy, thank you for joining us. Nice to know you're part of the chat this morning. You can join in with your voice. You just say, the wake-up words to your device, and then the word say, and then your message, and then I'll hear it. Or you can go to our web chat at backchannel.tv. This morning, we've been asking what travel anxiety looks like in 2021 and whether or not you yourself are going to be traveling for this Thanksgiving season and holiday season. And if you've got any anxiety about making the trip, because it's obviously quite a big thing. In a minute, I also want to talk about this cosmetics brand that is quitting social media. I mean, I would love to quit social media. I'm kind of done with it, you know, in many ways. But I also recognize that it has a value. It's become like a commodity. And in fact, in my business, you know, there are people getting hired and fired because they don't have enough followers on social media. I have a private Instagram account that's just for my friends and family, but I have a public Twitter account that's, you know, I'm verified with a blue tick. It cost me a fortune to get that thing. No, I'm kidding. I did apply for it, though. It was like a few years ago. You had to send a copy of your passport to get your blue tick. Isn't that crazy? So now, like, Twitter has a copy of my passport. It's data gathering, data mining. It's really not healthy. Let's look at this story about this brand that is going to be quitting social media, because it's very interesting to me. Is Lush an American brand? Because I remembered it in England. It was a bit like the Body Shop, wasn't it? It was like you would walk past the cosmetics shop Lush and you'd be like, whoa, that stinks. Because they had all these bath bombs and various different kind of, you know, smelly things for sale. And I found that all of the different flavors like clashed. Did you find that, Carla? Like, it was very strong in there. Like, I really didn't like going in. Apparently, they're very environmentally conscious as a company, you know. Carla changed her mind about the smell once she realized that, you know, their packaging was biodegradable, and it's a very, you know, they're very socially conscious. The story says, a global anti-social media policy is a grand title for a high-stakes marketing decision by British cosmetics brand Lush. It's the name of a new pledge by the brand to stop posting on 4 major platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikToks, and Snapchats. It's in a move that is sure to be closely scrutinized by marketeers throughout the cosmetics sector. Lush has a history of taking up political stances, from combating animal cruelty and partnering with All Out on its 2015 Gay Sock campaign, to donating profits from sales of its Era 404 bath bomb towards grassroots digital activists working to keep the internet free, open, and safe. Carla, could you check? Did Lush grow out of the Body Shop at all? Like, was there any connection to it? Do you know? Oh, he was friends with Anita Roddick. Okay, the guy who owns... So Anita Roddick was this British entrepreneur. She started the Body Shop in the 1980s. And it was... Yeah, I mean, it was basically a kind of socially conscious cosmetics brand. It was mainly like bath products to start with, washing and hair products and stuff. But because, you know, Lush does have a kind of Body Shop feel to it, doesn't it? It's like a similar style in there. Stinks, in other words. Stinks. The British handmade cosmetics brand has even claimed in the past to be a campaigning organisation fronted by a soap shop. Next up on its agenda is social media, the new anti-social media policy being rolled out across 48 countries. Wow. In place of social media, the company is planning a series of initiatives, including growing its YouTube presence, using Twitter for customer care, producing email newsletters for campaigns, and tapping Pinterest for inspirational content. Offline, it will invest in more physical events, community activations, and maybe even old-fashioned postal catalogues. Oh, I used to love a catalogue. Didn't you love a catalogue? Life for me without a copy of the Argos catalogue in my next to my bed was like... Argos was like a... It was a bit like Target, but they didn't have shops. The shop was just a counter, and everything was hidden out the back with elves. And you would go in and you would like write on a little piece of paper with a little pen. a catalogue number from the catalogues that were laminated in the front of the shop. And then you would go and pay for it, and then it would be brought to you by an elf. And it's a huge business in the UK. Argos, it's called. Lush isn't the first brand to rethink its social media strategy. Borgetta Veneta made a surprise exit from social media in January before launching a quarterly digital magazine called Issue in April. In June, Balenciaga wiped its Instagram grid clean and has done so periodically since. And Louis Vuitton's Spring-Summer 2022 show, they also kind of dropped their social media. Beyond brands, influencers have been moving towards ephemeral content, which is content shown for a shorter period of time before disappearing. Yeah, you see, it's interesting. I don't know that I like that. I really think it's important to archive everything. I really do. I know it's not good for the environment to archive everything because data centers need energy and, you know, there is precious metals used in storage of data. And so, you know, it's just not environmentally friendly to keep things forever in the digital domain. But I like archiving stuff. To me, it feels like that's kind of something special about the modern day, is that we can go back and look. I mean, I must have like 250,000 photographs in my Photos app. 250,000 photos. I probably take at least 5 or 10 photographs a day, every single day. And my photo library goes back to 2007 on that library. And then I have another one that goes back to like 2002. And then prior to 2002, I have a huge box of photographs that I'm yet to digitize. Because I'm a little bit crazy. But, you know, this is how people live now. And I pay for the iCloud, you know, like at 2 terabytes I'm paying for. Carla, you're on the 50 gigabyte free one. I'm paying $10 a month for 2 terabytes of iCloud storage so that I can access everything wherever I go. On my phone, I can access my computers, like everything. Is that important? Is it necessary? Do we need to have our stuff with us all the time? Yeah. Yeah, we do. Unless we're living in the metaverse. This stuff feels very nice, by the way. Never touch. Feels very nice. It's 10:43. This is Backchannel. Thank you for joining us this morning. We're talking about if you could drop the social media. If you are somebody who maybe could just maybe let it go, you know, do you think it's a publicity stunt to say no, we're not doing social media anymore? Or is Lush really a business with a moral conscience? You know, that they're likely to lose millions with this move. Can businesses nowadays be profitable and be like properly ethical? Would this change how you think about a company? If they disappeared from social media platforms, would you forget about them as well? And can a business in this day and age survive and thrive without a social media presence? Is it possible? Because, you know, small businesses, like little startups, little shops, maybe even retailers that don't have stores. You know, there are plenty of retailers working from home. There's a guy near here who launched his sandwich business on Instagram, making sandwiches out of his mum's kitchen. And he started doing it because his girlfriend knew that he made the best sandwiches. She was like, "You make the best sandwiches." It's actually called Carla. Carla. It's actually called Carla, if you want to look it up. They're in Beverly Hills. And Carla's sandwiches, I've eaten one. They are, hands down, the best sandwiches you will ever eat. There is no better sandwich. They do a tuna one, they do a turkey one. They're the best sandwiches. Carla Cafe. And they are only available on Instagram, and their Instagram is private. So if you want to get a sandwich, they do these sandwich drops. Anyway, Carla's boyfriend is now doing 300 sandwiches a day. And guess how much a sandwich is? It's like $18. He's doing 300 sandwiches a day. And it all started during the pandemic on Instagram. No website, no shop, no marketing, all word of mouth through a private Instagram account. Hi, Paolo. Thank you for joining us in West Virginia. So I feel like there is a place for social media only, and maybe if you've got retail shops, maybe if you have a high street presence, it's not completely necessary to do the marketing in the same way that it would be if you are just an independent on your own. Carla's just worked out it's $5,400 a day in sandwiches. Have you seen any of the sandwiches? I mean, what you need, because it's hard to find pictures of them because they don't really exist. They have purposely kept it private and exclusive, and that's why it's so delicious. I love it. I think it's wonderful. I only had it once, and I didn't get it myself. Some people invited me over, and they'd picked up these sandwiches, and that's how I asked. And I'm vegan, right? I don't like to eat meat. I actually ate the turkey sandwich because it was so delicious. It had avocado, the mayonnaise. I mean, it was like the least vegan sandwich you can imagine. I scoffed the lot, and I might have even put another one in my pocket for later. There's something rather wonderful about a sandwich. You know, a really good sandwich. It's all texture. Not just flavor, it's texture. I'm telling you, this is like the new thing. To realize that texture is really, when we cook, we have to cook textures as well as flavors. A bit of crunch or a bit of squish or whatever it is. It's just wonderful. And what Carla do with their sandwiches is they use like a ciabatta bun, a toasted ciabatta bun. Oh, it's so Moorish. There's been a little bit of news coverage about them. You know, you might be able to find them. But you have to go pick it up. They don't even deliver. That's what I love about it. You actually have to go to their house and pick it up. They do these sandwich drops. So we've been asking how to shop more ethically this holiday season, considering tips for putting your dollars back into your community, from supporting small businesses to making more sustainable choices like staying close to home, buying used stuff, supporting LGBTQ plus and those types of businesses, or black-owned businesses, being sustainable with these products and even ingredients. You know, there's a lot to it. We could be lazy and we could just continue our old habits, or we can contribute to this new economy that is a green economy and a small business economy and a cottage industry economy. Like, there's so much we can support and we can do, and it's no more expensive. The price pretty much is the same as it was doing it in the old way. And I kind of hope that, you know, in the same way that we lost a lot of the big brands on the high street, Sears and, you know, these big kind of legacy brands that kind of disappeared, I kind of think that the high street will soon become not that kind of commercial high street, but like an online high street where you effectively can buy from like local retailers who use local produce, local ingredients, and who are just more thoughtful and are more ethical with their menus and with their products and services. And there are definitely ways to do this, and it's already happening. But the most important way and the most useful way is for us to make a choice, is to actually make a conscious choice that we're just going to shop in that arena. We're just going to pay into that space. It's nice that we have that choice now, isn't it? That we can actually do this. And it's not just happening in California and New York. It's happening everywhere. You could be with Lucy in, or Paula in West Virginia, where, these things are happening everywhere. Louisiana or Texas. There are these small home businesses that are growing and are becoming something. And we are required as community members to support them and to care about them and to actually want them to do well and want them to succeed. Because, the likes of Target and, Lowe's and Home Depot, these kind of giant public companies, they don't need our money. They will always do well. There's enough people in the country to keep these types of businesses going. But these smaller independents, they deserve our support. And also, we should do the marketing for them. Like me telling you about Carla Cafe this morning just enables me the opportunity to kind of do a little bit for them. I'm going to look up their Instagram here just so that I can give it its full name. Carla, here we go. Yeah, Carla Cafe. Carla Cafe LA on Instagram. Pick up and delivery in LA. Oh, they're doing delivery now. Drops Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. DM for a link. Oh, they've put a phone number on it now. I wish I could show you the quality of the sandwiches, but they really are. They're just next level. They're doing burritos as well. I might have to get one of these. They are the most delicious things I have ever put in my chops. Carla Cafe LA on Instagram. And you have to follow them. You can't even look at their Instagram. They're private. You have to follow them. And then a few days later, if they can be bothered, they'll accept you. They don't automatically accept anybody. I love that. Was it like that Groucho Marx quote? Why would I want to be a member of a club that will have me as a member? Remember? It's 10:52. It's Tuesday morning. It's the 23rd of November. We're just a couple of days out from Thanksgiving. And I just wanted to remind you that there are all sorts of shows here on Backchannel that you can enjoy. Haley and Allison Live, waking you up in the morning with lots of laughs and their 1-star cinema review. Or Live Every Day with Live Every Day with Liv Harrison. Hi, Meow. Liv Harrison is live from Texas, celebrating the little things in life with plenty of coffee. And also Hal Rudnick, he's on the way in just a couple of minutes now. And he will sit back, relax, and just meander with his thoughts. It's compelling. I find it compelling. So that's your pal Hal. He's along here in just a couple of minutes. On Backchannel. I'm here Monday through Friday between 9 and 11. That's 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 Pacific, or noon and 2 Eastern. And you're welcome to join in. You can chat, you can message us, you can communicate. You can go on Backchannel's chat facility, which is a website, backchannel.tv. You can chat there as well. And also, don't forget there's YouTube. And if you put the emphasis on tube, it's funnier than if you just put it on the U like everybody else. So there's also a chat facility on YouTube. I haven't really checked to see if no one seems to be chatting on YouTube today. Everyone's chatting via their Amazon device, their speaker. So I just bought one of those Amazon car things so that I can have echo in the car without having to touch the phone. Anyway, I bought it. I'm going to try it, see if it works. You can always send it back if it doesn't work. It's the great thing about buying from Amazon. It's just the returns process is very easy. And I like a little drive to the UPS store. It just gives me something to do. So, yeah, thank you for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And stay with Backchannel for the rest of the day as more hosts will be sitting, sharing, communicating with you. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 9. Have yourself a really good day. Bye for now.